Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Péter Magyar, leader of Hungary's opposition TISA party, has criticized Prime Minister Viktor Orbán over claims of a thwarted sabotage attempt targeting a key gas pipeline. Explosives were discovered in northern Serbia, but details around the incident and responsibility remain unclear. The claims have drawn international attention, with Radosław Sikorski, Poland's foreign minister, calling the timing suspiciously convenient just days before the April 12th vote. And joining us now to discuss it all further is István Hegedűs, chairman of the Hungarian Europe Society. Good to have you back on TVP World.
Good morning.
Now, Péter Magyar himself is saying very much that Viktor Orbán here is panic-mongering here. Is he right?
Probably. There were many experts and analysts and journalists who already prophesized a sort of false flag operation to create a more hysteric atmosphere during the election campaign. And there were experts like András Rácz or journalist Szabolcs Panyi who exactly prophesized this event, what happened yesterday, the day before yesterday, that maybe the government wants to create a situation when it might even introduce a sort of martial law, which might be another history, but we don't know. But the real issue that they found just two materials which might explode and nobody knows who put it there really raises a lot of questions about the credibility of the government.
Mm-hmm. And also credibility, let's talk also about just what we know at this point in time, even as Orbán has said that this is directly linked to Ukraine. Essentially, the Serbian authorities, they've started a probe now, but they have said this is not directly linked to Ukraine. So how do we interpret all these different messages, what Orbán is saying, what the Serbians are saying internationally? Where is the direction here?
It shows a sort of cacophonia between two good friends, President Vučić and Prime Minister Orbán. Maybe it was a very last-minute operation if we accept the narrative that it was created by the two governments. But we don't know. Maybe Vučić might not want to say exactly what Orbán is saying and does not want to destroy Serbia's relation to Ukraine. Whilst for Orbán, he also tried to be a little bit cautious, not directly arguing that it was Ukraine. However, he and his colleagues in his government mentioned the opportunity that it's a Ukrainian provocation. Of course, Ukraine has no reason to provoke the government just a couple of days of the elections when the government already used this, as you know, an anti-Ukrainian campaign for a month. So we don't know, but it shows that the campaign is not going very well for Fidesz.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I mean, this is not the first time we've had the issue of security come up during this campaign. Orbán has played this up. There's also the idea of the Druzhba pipeline. He's shown pictures of him, this national emergency, etc. But then I just want to get your sense of it. The last sort of polls we saw not that long ago still had TISA, the opposition, ahead by around roughly 10 points. Do ordinary Hungarians, how do they perceive this? Is this really going to sway them either way, or what matters to the ordinary Hungarians? We've talked about this before.
We talked about it, and in general, international politics be so decisive for most of the Hungarian voters, especially who haven't decided yet, which is a small fragment of the electorate, actually. But it might create maybe a feeling among some ordinary people that Orbán is the guy who protects us. But I doubt. I think it's too late. Not many people would believe this story at all. And there are many more exciting and important scandals and issues. The media is full of them, including the pressure on the small parties in the opposition that they should step back, or at least their individual candidates should resign, and to give space for a big TISA victory. these are the real issues there today, not this provocation by the government.
Mm-hmm. And then also looking at, we've talked about this in the past as well, about these ways that Orbán is trying to play his hand at international politics. He wants to show and tout his friendship with big names like Donald Trump. We have Vice President J.D. Vance, I think, arriving in Budapest imminently today on Tuesday. What kind of impact will that visit do? And with all of this combined, with this recent pipeline issue and also the elections, will that influence anything at all?
In Budapest, most of the people would become very nervous, I think, because of the constraints, because of the limitations of traffic in the city, and they might not care much about J.D. Vance, who is not so well known and might not matter in Budapest much, where people mostly would vote for the opposition. So the lead is even higher in the big capital than in the countryside. And J.D. Vance is not so popular at all, just like in other parts of Europe. People who know him might remember exactly his speech a year ago in Munich at the security conference, that how much he was anti-European and anti-liberal. And I think in the countryside, it could have created a sort of sensation if Donald Trump himself arrived at Budapest, but he did not. And he is not popular actually either. So I think it wouldn't change the logic and the trend of the elections, the campaign just a couple of days before the big day on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. All right. And also back to these accusations and what's happened with the pipeline. We've had this before. Even if it's not true, I mean, this constant deliberate accusations against Kiev, tell us, I mean, what does that do inevitably to the relations between Budapest and Kiev? How do they continue? I know some of our guests in the past have said they hope that there's a common thread, that history will continue and that good things will still outlast the bad. But how are relations impacted if, let's say, Orbán loses or if Magyar wins or vice versa?
If Orbán loses, I think there is a room for change. I agree with my colleagues that sooner or later, Druzhba pipeline might be repaired and some oil might come from Russia through Ukraine. And sooner or later, because of the sanctions against Russia, you have to close down this pipeline anyway. So things will be solved and Hungary would receive oil from Croatia or through Croatia and through this pipeline, which has not been ruined at all, this Balkan-Turkey pipeline as well. And in general, maybe Zelensky and Orbán would find a way to talk to each other finally. But what is much more likely that's the other scenario, meaning that Tisza might win the elections. And then I think a rapid change might happen. This hysteric atmosphere might disappear, and sooner or later, the new Hungarian prime minister will talk to Zelensky, and maybe Péter Magyar himself would adjust to a common joint European position, and he's not pro-Russian at all, and might follow or adjust to the European ideas that we should support Ukraine in this terrible war.
Mm-hmm. And then also just a final one in terms of what Péter Magyar has said, this fear-mongering that Orbán is causing, this current awaiting the latest from this probe. What do you expect to happen in these next few days? I mean, it's difficult to predict, but will calm prevail? Will it escalate? Meetings are going to happen with J.D. Vance, bilateral as well. What do the next few days look like, just briefly?
J.D. Vance stays in Budapest for 2 days, and then it's already the end of Wednesday, and there are 2 more weekdays before the election. So we expect not much to happen, although in the last week, every day there was a new scandal, and someone from the government authorities unmasked what the government has done. We are talking about spies and provocations and false flag operation. it might continue, or maybe there will be some rallies all around in Hungary, especially Péter Magyar goes to 4 or 5 rallies each day. He will continue it to the last minute. And I think nothing will really happen. It's too late for Fidesz to change the logic and the trend. So if the polls are correct, Sunday it will be a real turning point in the history of Hungary.
But final, quick one. You mentioned this at the very beginning. What's the likelihood that Orbán could declare some kind of martial law? Could that potentially endanger elections, or is that too far?
I would argue it's too late and too far. But of course, you never know. But to create such a scandal within the European Union, maybe it would be even too much for a person, an illiberal populist like Orbán himself.
All right, so still a few days to go there before that major election in Hungary, and everyone is very much keeping their eyes peeled on it. Thanks so much for the latest. That was István Hegedűs, the chairman of the Hungarian Europe Society. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.